Hi, welcome back to Kalike. We are here with yet another episode on motion in a straight line, especially mechanics. We'll talk about some numericals on free fall. We haven't taken up any numericals on free fall, so we'll start the numericals from solving the textbook numericals first. We'll understand the concept of how to calculate something called a reaction time and what do you mean by stopping distance. So this is what is going to be covered in today's topic. Without wasting any time, let's get started. Well, now this is the very first numerical that we are going to pick up from the textbook, which is a free fall numerical. A ball is thrown vertically upward. Okay, you are throwing it vertically upward. It is thrown vertically upward like this with a velocity of 20 meter per second. What does that mean? So I am giving it an initial velocity of 20 meter per second. So when it starts from rest, the velocity that it picks up is 20 meter per second. Okay, so from the top of a multi-story building. Okay, so let's draw it. Let's draw what is given. So this is a multi-story building that is given. Okay, imagine this is a multi-story building with whatever it is, however it looks. Okay, so from the top of a multi-story building, you are throwing the ball in the upward direction. You're standing here, you're throwing it in the upward direction. Let's say it reaches a point. I hope it looks like a straight line. It reaches a point B. So this is the maximum height it can reach from this direction. I'm calling this point as B. I'm calling this point as A from where you projected the ball. So with what velocity did you project it? We projected it with a velocity of 20 meter per second. Fantastic. So that is what is given in the first sentence. The height of the point from where the ball is thrown is 25.0 meter from the ground. That means the height of the building. From the ground to from where you projected it, you are standing on top of the building. So therefore, definitely this height, the height of the building from the ground is what they are referring to the point A, and this is given by, let me call that building height as Y0. I'm calling this height as Y0, initial height. It is 25 meters. So it is 25 meters. Okay, that is given. Now, from the ground, how tall will the ball rise? We have to calculate how tall will the ball rise. There are two parts of the question. So let's first find out how tall will the ball rise. So how tall is the ball going to rise? And next is how long will it be before the ball hits the ground? You have to calculate the time the ball takes from the point of projection till it hits the ground. When it goes to a certain height and it comes down and hits the ground, you have to calculate that entire time length. Okay, we'll take that part later, but let's first break this up. We have to calculate the height to which from where. So let's do one thing. Let's take to the point from the ground to where the ball reaches. Let me assume this total height to be y. I will call this total height to be y. Okay, so this is the height of the building. So what will be this portion, which is AB, from from the point of projection to the maximum height? It is the entire height from the ground to where the ball reaches its topmost point minus the height of the building. So that will be y minus y0. This is what they are asking you to calculate. This is nothing but AB. You are calculating the height AB or the distance AB traveled by the ball. So how do we calculate? Let's first write down what is given. The initial velocity of the ball is given to be 20 meter per second. What will be the final velocity of the ball at the point B? We know that when you throw the chalk, if you can observe, if I throw the chalk, momentarily it will be at halt. For that moment, when it reaches at the topmost point, it is going to be at halt and then comes down due to gravity in the downward direction, right? Why does it come in the downward direction? Because gravity pulls it in the downward direction. It is in the negative y direction. If I assume this to be my axis, so this will be the origin from where it is thrown. This will be 0. So anything going beyond this, it will be in the downward direction. So this is your, if you draw the axis, so this is your origin. So this will be your negative y direction and this will be your positive y direction. So in the negative y direction, we always assume the acceleration to be negative just to show that it is moving in the negative y direction. This is just a convention followed. Please always remember, if it is moving in the upward direction, we take the acceleration due to gravity acting on it to be, again, in the, acceleration due to gravity always acts in the downward direction. So it is taken to be minus g. We'll take more numericals from the textbook and also entrance exam numericals, which will clear most of your doubts. Okay, for now you understand that I'm assuming this to be the origin because this is where I, projected the ball from the point of A. So therefore, this becomes your origin. So this becomes, if this is the origin, this becomes the negative y direction on the y-axis, and this becomes the positive y direction. So acceleration due to gravity is negative. So at that point, when I threw the ball from this, suppose this was the top of the building and I was standing here and I projected it upwards. So it goes at a certain point B, there momentarily it was at rest. So the final velocity will be 0, okay, before it starts again moving with a larger speed in the downward direction. Now the acceleration due to gravity is minus g. It is, what is the value of g? G is 9.8. But for all purposes, let's assume, for simplicity, we assume it to be 10 meter per second square. Okay. Now what else is given? Y minus y naught, which is nothing but the distance AB traveled by the ball, is something to be calculated. So do you know a relation that connects v naught, acceleration and distance from equations of motion? We know it very well. So let's use that. V square is equal to v naught square plus 2a into y minus y naught. Let's replace a with minus g. So what will the equation be? V square is equal to v naught square minus 2g, because a is replaced by minus g, into y minus y naught. Okay. So this is the unknown quantity. Rest all quantities are known. V is given to be 0, the final velocity. Initial velocity is 20, the whole square, minus 2g. I'll bring this minus 2g on this side. So that becomes plus. So that will be 2g. G will be 10. 2 into 10 into y minus y naught, right? So how did this minus sign go? Because I brought this here. How did I bring this here? Because v was 0. Okay. If you want, I can write one more step for those of you who do not follow. So this is 0 minus 2 into 10 into y minus y naught. Okay. Now let's bring this here. So minus becomes plus. When you bring that here, 2 times 10 is 20 into y minus y naught will be equal to 20 into 20. So 20 gets cancelled. What are you left with? Y minus y naught is equal to 20 meters. So what is the height AB from the point of projection? This is 20. So if the height of the building is 20 and from the point A to the point B where we threw is 20. So the total height from the ground to the maximum height the ball reached will be 25 plus 20, which will be 45 meters. So the value of y from the ground to the highest point of projection, highest maximum height reached will be 45 meters. So let's calculate the next part. The next part says how long will the ball hit the ground. Let's calculate that part. I hope you understood it. It was really easy. You need to understand what quantities are given, how you connect those quantities using the equations of motion formula that you already know. Well, now it's time to calculate the time it takes before it hits the ground. So first of all, we don't even know the time it takes to reach the point A to B. So this time is unknown. Let's split it. Let's call the time it takes to reach the point A to B from the point of projection to cover this distance of 20 meters. Let's call that time be T1, to move in the upward direction. Now after reaching the point B where the final velocity had become 0, so in this case the initial velocity is 20 meter per second and final velocity is 0 and distance traveled is 20 meters, right? Y minus y naught. So you have to calculate T1. In this case, in the downward direction, so from here, that will be a different case. We will do it. First, let's calculate the time T1 taken to travel a distance of 20 meter from point A to point B with an initial velocity of 20 meter per second and a final velocity of 0, with A being taking the value of minus g, because acceleration due to gravity is always in the downward direction. What is the equation of motion that you can use? You could use V is equal to V naught plus AT. Why? I know A, I know V naught, I know V. I only need to calculate time. Here the time that is assumed is T1. I'm calling it as T1 because we also have to calculate another time, that is from B to reaching the ground, it again take one more time. I will name that time as T2. Hence, I am calling this as T1. Once I know the values of T1 and T2, I'll add them together to find out the total time it takes to reach the ground or hit the ground before it reaches the ground. So V is 0, V naught is 20, A is minus G, which is 10 into T1. Let's bring this minus 10 here, it becomes plus 10. 10 T1 is equal to 20. You can cancel it like this. Some of you who do not know, I will do it. It is 10 multiplied by T1. Multiplication when comes to so multiplication is on LHS. So you have another number on the RHS. So when you bring it to the RHR, it comes to the denominator. Multiplication gets converted to division. So it is 20 divided by 10. So what do you have? The time taken to cover the 20 meters is only 2 seconds. It hardly takes 2 seconds to cover that distance. Please remember this value. And now we will calculate the other time required from the point B to reach the ground. Well, now let's calculate the other time. So after it reaches this point B, so where is the ball now? The ball is here. What is the velocity? The velocity is 0 at this point. From here, it starts its journey towards the downward direction. What is the distance it covers? It covers a distance of 45 meters, which was the overall distance, right? So it covers a distance of 45 meters. Okay, so since this is where it is starting its journey, we will assume this value to be V naught. What will be the final velocity when it reaches the ground? It is definitely going to be 0 when it reaches the ground, right? So now before it reaches the ground, it will hit with a greater speed because acceleration is pulling downward. The motion as well as the acceleration both are in the downward direction. So A will be taken as positive here. It will be plus 10 meter per second square. Please remember this point. It will be plus 10 meter per second square. Now, so we have to calculate. Let me call this time as T2. We do not know this time. What is the formula that I can use? What is the total distance traveled? The total distance traveled Y is equal to 45 meters. So you know Y, you know V, you know V naught, you know A. You have to only calculate T. What is the right formula to use? The right formula to use is Y is equal to V naught into T plus half gt square, right? A will be replaced by G plus G because it is in the same direction as the direction of motion. The total height traveled Y is 45. How much is V naught? V naught is 0. It starts with a velocity of 0, right? Final velocity before reaching, since they have asked before reaching the ground, we will not use this because before reaching the ground, just before it hits the ground, it will have some speed. It will definitely have some value and that will be maximum. So therefore, I cannot assume it to be 0 because the question said it hits before the ground, before the ball hits the ground. Therefore, I do not have the value of V. I have to use this formula. So half into 10 T2 square. This will be T2 square because we are calculating T2, right? So 0, if you remove that 0, you just have half 10 T2 square. So half will be, if you multiply this half into 45, or you can do the do this thing here only. 45 half 10 will be 5 T2 square. So T2 square is nothing by 45 divided by 5. 5 ones are 5 nines are, it is 9, which is nothing but square root of 3 square. So if you cancel square and this can be written as not square root. Let's write it as 3 square. So if square gets cancelled, the value of T turns out to be 3 seconds. So what was the value of T1? T1 was 2 seconds and T2 is 3 seconds. So the total time taken is T1 plus T2, which is 2 plus 3, which is going to be 5 seconds. So it takes about 5 seconds before hitting the ground. So I hope you enjoyed solving this numerical. I hope you enjoyed understanding what quantities and what quantities are unknown. That is the first step in solving any big numerical, and also the direction of free fall. You have to assume the correct signs in order to arrive at the right answer. Well, yes, now we are going to discuss free fall. What do you mean by free fall? We have just done a numerical. By free fall, I mean an object that is falling under the influence of gravity, and for all practical reasons and ideal cases, we assume the air resistance for the object, or the air resistance experienced by the object which is in under free fall, which is under falling under the influence of gravity, or which is being pulled up due to the earth's gravitational pull, we assume the air resistance to be negligible. This simplifies our numericals. Otherwise we will have to take into account the air resistance as well for all practical reasons, but we assume it to be negligible so that our numericals become simple. Otherwise we will be simply complicating them. That is an ideal case that can happen. So now, when do you say an object is under free fall, right? Free fall is falling under the influence of gravity. Okay, now suppose the height through which the object is falling, this height, if it is very much small compared to the radius of the earth, okay, if it is very much small, obviously, we consider a height, we do numericals in physics where the height will be 20 meters, 25 meters, it is very much negligible compared to the radius of the earth. So in such cases, you assume the object to be under free fall. Is there a convention that you follow for free fall? Yes, certainly. Now let me tell you, free fall is an object moving in the downward direction. So therefore, when an object moves in the downward direction, we take the convention for y, right? Plus y, this will be minus y, this is plus x, this is your minus x direction, and this is your origin. So any object moving in the upward direction with an initial velocity, so you see it is in the upward direction, gravity pulls in the downward direction, the acceleration experienced by the object is in the downward direction. Since it is along a direction opposite to that of the direction of motion, direction of velocity, we take the value of a to be minus, negative, and how much negative? It will be equal to the value of gravity. And what is the value of gravity? It is 9.8 meter per second square. But when we are doing entrance exam numericals, you can always approximate this to be minus 10 meter per second square. That will simplify a lot of your problems if you can, okay, because most of the answers in your entrance exam numericals will be close enough to whatever approximations you make, so you can make such an approximation. Now suppose if the object is moving in the downward direction, if the direction of velocity is same as the direction of acceleration, in such cases acceleration will be plus 9.8 meter per second square, because the motion, velocity and acceleration are in the same direction, or it is approximately plus 10 meter per second square for all practical purposes. So what are the equations of motion that we have learned so far? We have learned V is equal to V naught plus AT. Similarly, we have learned V square is equal to V naught square plus 2A into x minus x naught or y minus y naught, because it is along the vertical upward direction. For any practically any particle moving under the influence of gravity, we assume all vertical motions only. It cannot be a horizontal motion, right? And we have another equation, y is equal to, what is that? V naught t plus half at square. Now for all this, if v naught is equal to 0 and a has to be replaced by minus g, assuming that the object is moving in the upward direction but gravity is pulling it in the downward direction, so velocity and acceleration are in the opposite direction, you take the value of g to be minus. So let's replace and rewrite these equations with these values. So v will be equal to, v naught is 0, a is minus g, this will be minus gt. But what is the value of minus g? It is minus 9.8 into t, or approximately it is 10t. V will be 10t. Similarly, v square will be equal to, v naught square is 0, 2 into g is minus 9.8, 2 multiplied by minus 9.8 is minus 19.6, y minus y naught, this is approximately equal to minus 20 y minus y naught for all your entrance exam numericals. What will be the value of y? Y will be equal to, v naught is 0 half, which was the one? Yeah, y will be equal to, v naught is 0 half into minus 9.8 is minus 4.9 t square, which is approximately minus 5 t square. I am making approximations. So you see that this is how it is going to vary. Now let's plot a graph for this. Okay. Let me plot a graph for this value where V is equal to minus 9.8 T, this one. Okay, so let me, if you plot it, actually this will, if you calculate the value of acceleration, I'm plotting not V versus T, I'm plotting, it is 9.8 minus 9.8. This is 0, this is your negative y-axis. Suppose this is 1 second, this is 2 seconds, this is 5, and let's say this is 10 meter per second square. So this is the value of 9.8. You see that under constant acceleration, acceleration is constant for any time, any number of time. It will be a straight line parallel to the time axis, because even after any time gets elapsed, the value of A remains constant, which is equal to 9.8 meter per second square. It is minus because it is minus 5 minus 10 in the downward vertical direction. I hope you understand this. These things are very crucial when it comes to solving your numericals. Well, now we are going to talk about Galileo's law of odd numbers. This is something you must know. There could be numericals, entrance exam numericals that you can expect when it comes to, cracking your engineering and pre-medical entrance exams. So therefore, Galileo's law of odd number is something that you must know. What does it state? Let's write the statement. So Galileo's law of odd numbers it states that the distances traversed, okay, I will write it, let's write it full. The distances traversed by an object at equal intervals of time from free fall, from rest, under fall from rest, are in the same ratio as the odd numbers, are in the same ratio as the odd numbers starting from unity. So it starts from 1. So therefore, what does it say? So you imagine you have an object moving from, this is the first second, then in the second it is here. So it takes the same amount of time to travel from 0 to 1 second, 1 second to 2 second. So it is again it takes t seconds to here, in the next time interval, it takes the same, and the distance is traveled by an object in equal intervals. So it takes equal intervals. So here also it takes t seconds. Again here also, it takes to reach these points. Let's call these points as A, B, C. So these distances which are covered in equal intervals of time, they are in the ratio. So this distance are in the ratio 0 to A, 0 to A is to B, A to B is to B to C. They are all in this ratio, starting odd number ratio, that is starting from 1. 1 is to 3, 3 is to 5, 5 is to 7, 7 is to 9 is to 11. They are on this ratio. So this is what it says, and we can prove this also. Let us see how we can prove this. So to prove this, what I'm going to assume is, I'll assume the equation of motion V is equal to V naught plus GT, okay. It is under free fall, so assuming G to be positive, and V naught is from rest, it says from rest, so V naught is 0, it says falls from rest, and all the times are equal. So T1 will be T, T2, the second interval will be T plus T, which will be 2T. Similarly, T3 will be T plus T plus T, which is going to be 3T, equal intervals. T4 will be 4 times T. Similarly, T plus T plus T3, it will be 4 times of T. Okay, now let's calculate let's not use this equation. We are talking about distance traversed. So let's use this equation. X is equal to, or y is equal to, v naught into t plus half gt square. V naught is 0, so you do not have this quantity. You directly can write it as equal to half gt square, right? So y is in the first second. So in the first second, okay, during the first second of the motion, you have to substitute the value of t as t. So y will be simply equal to half into g into t square, right? During the second, what will happen? What is the value of t that you are going to substitute? You are going to substitute it as 2t. So this will be 2t the whole square, which is nothing but half into g into 2t is nothing but 4t square. 2 ones are 2 twos are. So that is going to be 2gt square, right? Now let's calculate the distance traveled during the first second and the second. So the distance traveled AB, which I said during the first and the second will be this minus, during the second it traveled a distance of 2gt square, minus during the first second it traveled a distance of half gt square. Let's take the LCM. You take the LCM, it is 2. Multiply the LCM with this number. If you multiply 2 times 2 is 4 gt square, minus multiply this half into 2. 2 and 2 gets cancelled, so you remain with gt square. So this is going to be 3 gt square. You already got the ratio, so that distance is 1:3, which we wrote. It has to be S1 during the first second. During the second, the ratio of from first to second is 1:3, because it starts from unity. So is as or is equal to 1:3. It starts from the first unity, and then the ratio is used 3g. Gt square can be taken common. You saw that it is 3 seconds. Similarly, we can do it for the rest. I'll erase the board and continue. Okay, now let's do it for the third second. What will happen during the third second? Y will be equal to half into g into, it will be 3t square. So that is nothing but half into g into 9t square. So 9 divided by 2, right? So 9 divided by 2 gt square, if I'm right. Yes. So therefore, how much was for the second? For the second, if I'm right, it was y was equal to simply 2gt square. So what will be the distance traveled from the second to the third second? If we subtract, the third is 9 by 2 gt square minus 2 gt. If you do that, take 2 as the LCM. 9 by 2 multiplied by 2, 2 and 2 gets cancelled. You get 9 gt square, minus, you multiply these two. 2 times 2 is 4 gt square. So 9 minus 4 is 5. We got it. 5 gt square by 2. So if you take gt square by 2 common, you saw that the ratio from S2 to S3 is 3:5, because that was 3:5. It got 5. So this is how you prove. You can go on proving it, substituting for various time intervals like 4t, 5t, 6t. You see that it will be in the order of odd numbers. Hey, did you know what stopping distance actually means? By definition, we know that it is the distance traveled by an object before it comes to a halt. When a person, suppose if you're traveling in a car and suddenly someone comes in front of you and you halt your car for a moment. So the distance it travels before coming to a halt is what is known as stopping distance. It covers a certain distance before actually the vehicle comes to a total stop, bringing the final velocity of the vehicle to be 0. So do you know this stopping distance actually depends on the initial velocity with which the vehicle started, and also depends upon the braking capacity of the vehicle? If so, how do we arrive at the expression for stopping distance of the vehicle in terms of the initial velocity and the braking capacity of the vehicle, or the deacceleration of the vehicle? Let's find out. So to do so, if this is the equation of motion that we apply, v square is equal to v naught square plus 2ax. Then in that case, the initial velocity, it will be traveling with a certain velocity, and then when it comes to a halt, the final velocity becomes 0, that is 2a into x. So x is the stopping distance. If I bring 2ax on the other side, or if I just yes, if I bring 2ax on the other side, because this becomes minus 2ax is equal to v naught square. Therefore x will be equal to v naught square divided by 2a. This minus sign comes here. If you multiply both by minus, this becomes plus and this becomes minus. So you see that the stopping distance is proportional to the square of the initial velocity. What does this physically mean to us? This means the stopping distance varies as the square of the initial velocity. Suppose if you double this distance, what will happen if you double this distance? Double the initial velocity. If you double the initial velocity, the stopping distance actually increases 4 times. The magnitude of the stopping distance increases 4 times the initial velocity. So, the stopping distance here, if the initial velocity is v naught, and now the initial velocity is 4 v naught, you see that the stopping distance, there is a ratio, it increases 4 times than the first stopping distance. So therefore, this is how you arrive at the expression for stopping distance. Like, follow, subscribe to Kali K for more interesting facts in physics and derivations. Have you heard about reaction time in physics? Do you know what it actually means? Reaction time is the time taken by a person to respond to a situation immediately. So, on what all factors does this reaction time depend? It actually depends on the person, on the individual, as well as the complexity of the situation where the individual is involved in. Imagine a person driving a car and suddenly a boy appears in front of him, and then before he slams the brakes, he has to think what is happening, he has to process what is happening, and then immediately press the brakes. So that time is what is known as the reaction time to a given particular incident. Is there a way that we calculate this reaction time in physics? Can we arrive at an expression? Yes, we certainly can. So before he slams and before he calculates, of course, the object will travel a certain distance, the car travels a certain distance, which we call the stopping distance. So you can calculate this reaction time using equations of motion. There is this very simple experiment that you can carry out to calculate the reaction time. You can ask your friend, for example, you can ask your friend to drop, if I drop this chalk and catch this chalk here, suppose it travels a certain distance, let's say 21 centimeters from where I dropped to where I caught it. So the distance traveled by that object, which is the stopping distance in case if you take the car, is supposed to be, let's take that value to be 21 centimeter. Okay, now 21 centimeter can be, how do you convert this to meter? We have to cancel centimeter. I take centimeter in the denominator, I take meter in the numerator. We know 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter. 100 can be written as 10 power plus 2. Centimeter gets cancelled, so 21, if this goes to the numerator, this becomes 21 into 10 power minus 2 meter. So the basic stopping distance is 21 into 10 power minus 2 meter. Now the initial velocity with which it was traveling was 0, right? So how do we calculate? And it was under the action of free fall in this experiment. Therefore, A will be G is taken to be 9.8 meter per second square. So the formula that we can use to calculate this is x is equal to V naught into T plus half GT square, where x is your stopping distance, v naught was 0, this quantity gets 0, so half into 9.8 into t square, where t is your reaction time, I can call it as tr. So if you cross multiply or if you do this will be 4.9, 9.8 divided by 2 is 4.9, tr the whole square, this is x, so this will be x divided by, if you bring this down, 4.9. Now you have tr the whole square, if you remove the square, it will be root. So TR, this is the formula used to calculate the actual reaction time. If you know the stopping distance, you can substitute the stopping distance. The stopping distance is 2.1, or it is 21 into 10 to the power of minus 2 whole divided by 4.9 can be written as 49 into, I want to shift the decimal place to the right by how many decimals? By 1 decimal. So what will be the power raised to? The power of 10 will be raised to, when you shift the decimal place to the right, what happens? The power decreases. So denoted by minus. Since you're shifting by 1 decimal place, it will be 10 power minus 1. So that will be TR. So this is how you carry out your calculation. Now what you do is 21 divided by you can approximate it. Let's approximate it. I will approximate this to be 20. I'll approximate this to be 50. And then you have minus 2, minus 1. Minus 1 goes to the numerator. It becomes plus 1. Minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1. 0, 0 gets cancelled. So you have, basically now you have 2 divided by 5. Square root of 2 divided by 5 into 10 to the power of minus 1. So with this, now you have to calculate. Root of 5 by 1 is, you have 5 and 2, so it is 0.4, which will be 20, right? So 0.4, it is square root of 0.4 into 10 to the power of minus 1, which will be your reaction time. 0.4 can be written as, again we shift the decimal place to the right, 1 decimal place. So you write it as 4.0 into 10 to the power of, when you shift the decimal place to the right, the power of 10 decreases, so it becomes minus 1. By how many decimals? By the digit number of digits that you are shifting. It is, we are shifting 1 decimal place. So therefore it becomes minus 1 into minus 1. This is equal to the reaction time TR. So how do you calculate? Now it is 4.0 into 10 to the power of minus 2 is equal to the reaction time. Square root of 4 multiplied, this can be written as 10 to the power of minus 1 the whole square is equal to TR. Square and root gets cancelled. Root 4 is 2 seconds. So you basically take the reaction time was just 2 seconds. So this is how you calculate the reaction time. So you have it was very it is not 4, it is 2 into, and then you have 10 to the power of minus 1, 10 power minus 1, so it is basically 0.2 seconds. So you take so much reaction time. So this is how you calculate the reaction time for a given situation. I hope it was clear. You saw how we arrived at the expression. So it is basically x is v naught into t half gt square. G is 9.8. 9.8 divided by 2 was 4.9. TR square, you took the square root, x divided by this, right? So therefore I assumed 9.8 to be the distance was 21, and then we assumed this to be 4.9 to be 5, and then we approximated, we arrived at the result. This is how you do your calculations. I hope this class was useful. I'll meet you in my next class with some interesting numericals, interesting concepts in physics. Till then, if you have anything, you can always leave a comment. Please like and follow, subscribe to Kalike. If you take care of mechanics, mechanics will take care of you.